Hi crafters, today I'm going to show you how to make that big Christmas board to scale on your or using your design space. So first what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get a shape. So you're going to pick a square, and I want to make this square as big as my board. So the board I have is 5 feet by 10 inches. So I want to stretch this shape so it gets to 10 inches by 60 inches. So that's what 5 feet is, 60 inches. So I'm going to stretch this out. And this seems kind of silly, but this is how I do it, and this is how I think it makes the most sense to get your proportions right, is just to make it to scale in your design space. I think that's what makes the most sense. Alright, so once I get it down to 60 inches, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a text box. So I'm going to make my first piece of text, which is going to say, well, I'm going to pick my font first. And I really like this Austin font that I got from Font Bundles. So I'm going to do Mary, and I'm going to move it over here, and I want to weld this together so the letters all touch. So I'm going to ungroup these, and then I'm going to move them all closer together so they all touch. And I like to kind of tilt this second R, just it doesn't look right if it's not tilted, so yep. Alright, so now I'm going to weld these all together, so I'm going to go over here to weld, and now it's all welded together, so now it's one word. So now I'm going to go back over, and I'm going to open another text box once I get this minimized a little bit. There we go. I'm going to stretch this out before I make my other text box. So I'm going to stretch this out, so I'm going to see what it's going to look like on my board. So I think that looks good, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit. So I'm going to make another text box. Sorry you can't see where I'm making the text box, but it's on the left side of your design space. It has a T. So I'm going to use this Baskerville Old Face. This is like one of my favorite fonts. And now I'm going to enter the letters. I'm going to enter them on top of each other because that's how my sign's going to read. So it's all going to be vertical. Alright, so now I'm going to move this over to my board. I'm going to make it bigger first and center it so it'll all look stacked. So now I'm going to move it over to my board, and I'm going to stretch it out till just, this is all, depends how big your board is, depends on how big you want your letters, but I think that looks good. And I'm leaving that space underneath because I want to enter a Christmas tree. So I'm going to go to my images. I'm going to search for a Christmas tree. And there's one specific one that I really like, so I'm going to search for that one. Let's see, where is it? Oh, this is the one. Yeah, I like this one a lot. So I'm going to insert that image. Alright, so I'm going to scoot it down. And I'm going to unlock it, and I'm going to stretch it to get it to the size I want it. That looks pretty good. Yeah, so now I'm going to enter it there. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Yep. Alright, so now we have our board, how we want it. So now it's time to start making the actual stencil part of this. So to do that, we're going to want to weld the text. So what I want to do is I want to move the or I'll just slice it. Actually, I'll just slice it one by one. Okay, so this makes more sense. So I'm going to slice it, move that back to the front. Now I'm going to slice the Christmas part out of the board. So now the Christmas part, you can see this is starting to look like a stencil now. And now I want to slice the tree out. But see, I can't slice the tree. See, the slice button isn't lighting up, so I can't slice the tree until I weld the tree together, so it's just one layer. See, it's not lighting up. So I'm going to move the tree over. I'm going to move the tree over and I'm going to weld it all. So it doesn't matter that it's all one color because I just really want the silhouette of the tree. So now that it's all one layer, I can slice it out of the stencil. So now you'll notice that our stencil is way bigger than 12 by 24, obviously. So we're going to have to break this up into chunks. So the way to do that is, so we're going to want to make this into either, it depends on the size of your mat too. So if you have a 12 by 12 mat, you'll have to make them 12 by 12 or 12 by 24. So to do that, we're going to get a square, and I'm going to duplicate this because we're going to need a couple of squares actually. So we're going to slice each part of our stencil. So I'm going to make this square look like more of a rectangle. Oop. Oh, I forgot I want holly with it too. So I'm going to put some holly on it. So let's find some holly. Yeah, this one looks good. So just put your holly wherever you want it, or if you don't want it, you can skip this part, but I think it adds just a little. And I welded the whole holly so the red berries went away, but we can just add those in later. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be part of the stencil. It's not, at least I don't do it like that. So I'm going to make a couple more of these. Turn it a little bit, move it over. And again, this is all personal preference, so you don't need to put these exactly. You don't even need the holly. You can do something else. You can do a snowflake. You can do whatever. So now I'm going to put this last one down here. Now I'm going to need to slice these holly leaves out of the stencil. So we're going to do the same thing that we did. We're going to select the holly, select the stencil, and then slice them out. So slice these out. And I don't know why every time I slice, this stencil moves to the front, but that's not that big of a deal. Alright, so our last one, I'm going to slice this. Alright, so now we're going to go back to what I was saying, and we're going to break this big stencil up into manageable pieces for our mat. So we're going to put this square over the first section. So I want to make these sections no bigger than 12 by, no bigger than 12 by 23, because that's pretty much the max that your mat can take. So that's a good place to stop. So it's less than 12 by 24, but that's fine. So now I'm going to slice. So what I did was I selected the square and the stencil, and now I can slice this piece off. So now on the right here we have a manageable size piece for our mat. So now you're just going to do that a couple more times so you have manageable pieces. And this is a little too big. I don't want to waste all that vinyl, so I'm going to slice that top of that off. I wish Design Space had an easier way to slice or, to like crop images, but this is the best thing that I've been able to find so far. So now we have our first piece good to go. You can see that it's 10 or a little smaller than 10 by 24. So now we're going to do another slice, another piece. Do the same thing, put the square over it, over your stencil, and stretch it to wherever you want it. So whatever makes sense for your mats. So for me, I think I gotta move this up a little bit. I'm measuring it. I use my Design Space to measure. Alright, so you're going to stretch, and I think this looks good. So again, I'm going to select the stencil, select the square, and then slice and move everything out of the way. You can see on the left we have our nice little piece right there ready to go. So now we're going to do this one more time. So this last piece is a little big, so I'm going to slice the A and the S and leave the tree by itself. So select, slice. Now we have our AS, so the bottom part of Christmas, and we have our tree by ourselves. See, and we still have this stuff attached to this, so I'm just going to make one more square. And I'm going to stretch it over this whole entire piece of excess. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And again, there's no real easy way in Design Space to just kind of get rid of all that. So this is the only way I've found, really. So select, slice. So now we can get rid of all that excess stuff that was following the tree for whatever reason. Alright, so now we have our couple of pieces. So you can see we have our stencil pieces ready to go. Oop, there we go. So this is how to make, again, this is how to make something that's really big in Design Space. You just got to play around with it a little bit. So move this over just so you can see what we are working with here. So now, in theory, you're ready to go with your stencils. So first, let's save this before we lose all of our work. sometimes my computer like wigs out and I'll do all this work and then it doesn't save and it makes me really sad. Alright, so it's saved. Good to go. So now you would go to make it and you would click OK. And you see that your stencils are ready to go. So you got all your mats. So you could cut this on vinyl, or you could cut this on plastic, craft plastic, if you want to do something reusable. So now it's going to find your machine and you're good to go.